Guys, what is going on? I'm your host, Josh Haave. This is Paradigm Shift, and I am super excited today. We've got a buddy of mine. I don't know. I've known this guy almost 20 years since working together in the construction industry in the DC area, and super excited to finally get together and talk. I wish we could do it in person. But I am in LA and he's in DC, so. Charlie Smiroldo, he is construction phenom, baseball phenom too. And construction real estate is his thing. And I'm going to turn it over to him here and let him introduce himself. But excited to talk to you today, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, bummed that we're like, I don't know how many miles apart right now having this conversation. And it's crazy to think 20 plus years that have known each other and been friends and got to experience a lot of kind of fun things together, cut our teeth together in DC at a little small interior shop called Rand Construction.
Yeah.
So kind of quick background on me, kind of high level who I am today. I'm part of the executive leadership team here at Stream Realty Partners out of our DC Metro office. All things, commercial real estate, my background originally in construction and development, that's morphed into more involvement on the transaction side as it relates to investments, acquisitions, development, really more so on the deal side. But got a really interesting background that I'd love to just share with everybody. Cause I think that a lot of people think that, to get into brokerage or real estate, you got to have some finance background or your father or your mother have to be in real estate for you to kind of take that path. And, I have I took a very circuitous route to get where I'm at today. You mentioned baseball, baseball was, my passion and something I was quite frankly pretty good at, in my younger years. And that took me to college. And in college, I quickly realized there was other things outside of baseball. There was girls and fraternities and all these other kind of things that piqued my interest. And, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I quit playing baseball and just focused on, being a college kid. But at some point I had to graduate and grow up and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I kind of fell into construction. I grew up in Arlington. When I graduated, I moved back in with my parents. My mom was like, "Hey, you're not going to sit at home and, have that silver spoon and live in Arlington, and so she encouraged me to go get a job. And I was a laborer on a construction site. And that's what kind of motivated me to say, okay, maybe there's something here. And part of me thought, I wanted to be like a boots on the ground field guy in construction. And I actually looked at the back of the Washington Post and I said, I'm just going to find the first job with the word assistant. And I was like, I can be someone's assistant, right? Like, how hard is that? And I picked up the phone and I called Rand Construction. That was the first place I called. And I said, hey, I know nothing about construction. I was president of my fraternity, but if I could manage 45 drunk guys, I could probably manage some construction workers. And and they just thought that was the funniest thing. And they were like, we got to meet you. And what I learned, and what I can take back from that now, 20 years later in a leadership role, is that what Rand was really focused on at that point in time, that's to give ourselves both pats on the back, was that they were focused on just hiring really good people.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's paramount, right, to our business. I actually had a post on LinkedIn today about a woman that I hired a couple of years ago, talking about that we're in the people business and how we were really focused on hiring good people. Anyways, I digressed here a little bit. So went to Rand out of college. It was a great place to just learn about construction and really a general understanding of kind of what commercial real estate was. I had no clue what it was coming out of college. But it wasn't really until, we got through the great financial collapse and a lot of distress happened in our world. That was really great to live through, quite frankly. A lot of people got laid off. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
lost jobs. A lot of people lost buildings. And so to be able to see that, it better kind of protect ourselves kind of going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up landing eventually with a group called First Potomac Realty Trust, which is no longer around. They were acquired by a group called RMR. But there I really got a better view of like what real estate was. Like prior to that, I was like, I'm just a construction guy. You tell me what to build, like I'll logistically get it done on time, under budget, and I'll generally make it feel good and it'll be a good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working at the REIT, it was like, oh well, there's leasing, there's asset management, there's the portfolio side. Oh, we're a publicly traded company, and there was all these different facets. And I was like, wow, like some of those other facets are pretty interesting. Like maybe I want to do those. And
Yeah.
it was interesting. One day I was sitting in a room across from a guy. We were doing a build to suit for the GSA, and the guy I was sitting across from, great guy, but he was mid 50s or so, and I thought to myself, I was like, I don't want to be that guy when I'm 55. And no disrespect to him, it was just like
Yeah.
at that point in time, I was like, I don't know, early 30s,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 31, 32. And so that was a long way to get there, right? I was like, I got to do this for
Yeah.
15 more years. Like, I don't know if I
Right.
can sustain.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I said, okay, I got to get focused. Like, what do I really want to do? And I was like, all right, like, I want to own my own office building. And I just was like, okay, cool. So I've now set this like gigantic goal. Like, is being a construction manager going to get me there?
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly has helped because it allows me to kind of look at things from a different vantage point. But I
Yeah.
quickly realized, like, okay, I need to maybe like, instead of doing construction, I need to do development right
Yeah.
within First Potomac. And so I've shifted over to that.
Hmm.
And then quickly, after I kind of settled into this new role at First Potomac, they were acquired. We were going through an M&A and or an acquisition, and I got to be a part of all that. And I ended up finding a really great firm in Stream Realty Partners. Actually, the managing partner here, Kyle Luby, he and I kind of crossed paths, and
Uh-huh.
he'll laugh at this. Someone made a recommendation to him and said, "Hey, you should hire this guy." Didn't say my name,
Uh-huh.
and he said, "Nope, can't hire him. He has too much experience." And so someone else made the recommendation that I meet with Kyle, and I said, "Well, this guy's not going to want to meet with me. He's already turned me down." But lo and behold, he never got my name from that person. So,
Yeah.
anyways, long story short, I ended up kind of being hired as Stream's kind of first kind of construction and development person here within the DC metro region. And at
Hmm.
that point in time, we were, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 people. Like we were a small shop.
Yeah.
Um, Purchased a building, 1771 N Street. Myself and Kyle, who I mentioned, we were like the kind of the two key people on that deal. And
Uh-huh.
the rest is kind of history. This is, we're 100+ people in our office now. So a lot has changed since I first joined 6 years ago, and the
Wow.
responsibilities have changed. But, we've got a super dynamic platform that, allows us to, people like myself, to do a lot of different things and serve a lot of different clients.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Have you always been, from, when I knew you in DC, you were always a go-getter. Like, I mean, that's why you're like one of my first guests on here. Like you were always this bright, shining light, man, like a go-getter. Were you always setting these goals for yourself? Did you have any kind of mentors I know your dad was a big influence on you. I had the pleasure of meeting him once, I think, on our way to Dewey Beach.
yeah.
But any mentors or like who like guided you along the way? I think it's so important to give props to the people that helped us along the way.
No, absolutely. Look, I think, I look at everything, and even when I do goal setting, like personally, there's personal and professional, right? But at some point, those worlds interconnect. If you're really good at what you do, like it all feels like the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And look, yeah, my dad, without a doubt, biggest, mentor, influence, he used to always say, "Hey, I'm your biggest fan," which as an athlete, as anything, it's great to know that you always have someone kind of in your corner rooting for you.
Yeah.
And so he was always there, even till the time that he passed. He was always rooting for me. Whatever I was doing from a business perspective, he was always proud and would say, "Hey, are you sure you should do that? Like, little risk involved, And so at the end of the day, the things that he taught me are still with me,
Yeah.
right? Like you get more bees with honey. I always say
Mm-hmm.
that, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
honesty is the best policy. There's these little Chuckisms that we say that he left with us that I still do. Now, on the business side, you know, my dad wasn't in the business, right? He was not in construction, albeit,
Yeah.
you know, he did a lot of great things, you know. But one of the first people I ever worked with, and you remember this guy, Chris Rushop,
Yeah.
you know, who had a great career at Rand and at CBRE, and I think he's at Hogan Lovells now,
Uh-huh.
doing big things for them. Like we still talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we still help each other where we can. And you know, I think he taught me how to treat people in the business side of things as well, and how to negotiate and how to do a lot of things. And
All
you know,
right.
sometimes some of your influences come from people that you don't want to admire, and like I'm just not going to do that, right? I've worked with some bad people too, right? And
Yeah.
like, I think all those kind of experiences, right, kind of shape who you become at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Like I
Yeah.
think I posted something last week on LinkedIn. I had breakfast with a guy on Saturday morning. I consider him a mentor. Like he was my boss, but
Yeah.
we mentor each other. Like I'm
Sure.
like the younger, more energetic version of him, right? And so
Yeah.
he feeds off of my energy, right?
Yeah.
So what I try to do more so now is I try to mentor people because I think it's really important that you just give back to everybody, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I totally agree. I mean, whether you know it or not, you've been an inspiration to me, dude. Like, you know, when you quit alcohol, like that was truly inspiring. You know, I gave up alcohol earlier in 2023, and
Bravo.
it's been a game changer, man. Like just taking everything to the next level. I don't know, has that helped? I mean, I know it's helped with your
Yeah.
goal setting and
Well, you know, it's interesting. So look, I think there's a stigma about, you know, not drinking or drinking, whatever you want to
hmm,
call it. You know, people are like, how do you not drink in your industry? I'm like, I just don't, right? I'm
yeah,
the first guy to get up and the first guy to go to bed, you know, and the first guy to get up. Like you know, I do all the things, right?
yeah,
Look, if you look at my success in my career and when I quit drinking. So by the way, this year would be 10 years, no alcohol.
congrats,
Love it.
man. That's
Looking forward
awesome.
to the next 10. It's exponential, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I have time for everybody and everything, right? There are no excuses,
Uh-huh.
right? And that's not to say that I was some like bad person when I drank, but like
Yeah.
I was definitely not the best me. That's what I tell people,
Hmm.
that like there was a better Charlie out there that I wanted to unlock at the end of
Yeah.
the day. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I felt like I could be more productive. Like there was
Yeah.
this level of unproductiveness. Like I would go all week, be like the A player all week at the office, and then Friday night would come and I'd be like, let's get fucked up,
Yeah.
right? And it would just ruin my whole weekend. It was unproductive, right? And so there was just a better me out there. And like, look, I had surrounded by a lot of really great people. My dad didn't drink. You know,
Hmm.
he did at one point in time, but my whole career of knowing him and my dad, he never drank, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I had that great influence. Had a great wife, and you know, my wife Alyssa, like,
Yeah.
she quit drinking when I quit drinking to help me. Now she still drinks, but like, we're different people, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what's great is that I can have an influence on people because people like, I think some people are like scared to not drink, right? And
Yeah.
yo, it's gonna be okay. Like,
I think that tide's changing though. Clearly I'm in Los Angeles. There's a lot of, a lot of vitamin D out here. Things are doing things a little bit different on the East Coast compared to the West Coast. So I think it's a little bit easier, but I definitely see that tide changing where the stigma's still there a little bit, but yeah.
yeah, you know, it's interesting. Well, first of all, you got, you know, California sober, right? That's like a big
Yeah.
thing, right? And so, look, I had a party at my house, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I had some non-alcoholic beers out, and I was drinking them.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to someone the next day, and they're like, "Oh man, like how are you feeling?" I'm like, "Oh, I feel great. Those are non-alcoholic beers." Like, and like, so the point I'm making is, it's like you don't have to like actually drink. Like, no one cares. Like, nobody
Yeah.
cares. That's what I realized. Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
That you don't drink.
Right.
Like when you're younger, you have FOMO, right? And you think that it
Yeah.
matters. And
Yeah.
look, I'm not taking anything back that I did because I had a lot of good years with a lot of good friends and a lot of good people, you and me included. Had some fun road trips together, but like, you know, you got to grow up at some point in time. You know, when I hit age 40, which was 2 years ago, I told my mom, I said, the first 40 years were for learning. The next 40 are for living. And because it's true, like
Yeah.
you got to experience and learn all these things to kind of come to the conclusion of what you want to be or what you want to do. Now I'm in a place where like, all right, it's clear. I know what I want to do. Right.
Yeah.
Now time to go live it out.
Yeah. You got young kids. You got to teaching them baseball and everything, man. Yeah. And you got this big goal. Like, so,
Yeah.
um,
The big
go
goal,
ahead.
man, it's still out there. It's gonna, that big goal will never go away. Right. Like even once I get it, it's just going to be, the goal will just get bigger.
Yeah. Nice. What was I thinking about? Oh, I was actually listening to, you were talking about good times. I was listening to, Soja this morning, actually. You turned me on to them, but
They're still cranking.
love that band.
Yeah.
Arlington band, right?
Yeah. They have, obviously they have evolved over time. They've added new members, but yeah, the original
Yep.
base, core group, all Arlington
Gotcha.
guys, like from Yorktown and O'Connell. Like I remember like seeing them like play at like people's houses in high school. Like I remember in college, I went to Radford. They were playing at Tech. And I was like, I told all my fraternity brothers, I'm like, we have got to go see these guys. Like they're awesome. And I remember introducing them to some of my fraternity brothers. And then like a couple of years later, they took off and they really blew
Yeah.
up.
It's good stuff.
Good guys too.
Yeah. I don't know if they know anything about real estate, but I know what are some I mean, at Stream, what are some trends you're seeing for the year or two ahead?
Man, I don't know. It's funny. I posted, and I try to. I don't know how closely you follow me on LinkedIn, but I try to have a mix of like thoughtful type of like data and research related to like what I'm dealing in, as well as like, some of the friendlier, fun stuff.
Yep.
And I posted something about like saying it's going to be more of the same but different, right? That's what this year is going to be like. It's interesting. Like I talked to some people, myself included. I had one of the best years I've ever had in real estate. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's like, hey, this is something tough. Like, let's roll up our sleeves and get creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is going to be a theme, and it has been a theme. It's like, if you're going to like continue to do the same thing that you've always done and you've done for the last 5 or 10 years, you're probably not going to be successful because the world is changing, technology is changing, a lot of things are changing. So you got to evolve, right? You got to pick up new deals, new opportunities, new clients, and do things a little bit differently or think a little bit differently. I think was one like interesting like kind of factoid that I keep echoing to anyone who will listen to me is that like please anybody that like reads the headline about office vacancy, like go talk to a broker, because here's why. Because you may read this big number that's 20 or 30% office vacancy, but like that's all office. That's a lot of office that no one would ever want to office in, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the top of the market, at least here in DC, and I know New York's the same, and I'd probably guess the same thing for like Dallas and a lot of these bigger kind of gateway markets. The Class A and the trophy stuff, it's a tight market. Like if you're a big tenant looking for a high end space, like you better start looking now, especially in a lot of these areas because no one has been building office space. Right. And so that market has remained really tight. And with nobody building any new office space, like Josh, you know how long it takes to like build an office building, like from start of entitlements through ground. I mean, you're talking at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's going to be a lot of like interesting things that happen these next few years. And so what does that mean? It means that market will remain tight, right? Those rents will hopefully rise a little bit. But more importantly, I think it'll trickle down to those like A-, B+ buildings that are like, hey, we have no other option, right? Because we need to move or whatever the reason is, right? We need to grow, we need to contract. There are various reasons. So what that means is I think that with all of this, it's like, you're starting to see like all-time low bases in buildings. Like we're helping groups, acquire buildings in DC right now. And I'm like, $100 a foot. Like, I mean, 2 years ago, if you would have asked me what the land value of a vacant office building was, I'd say $250 a foot. Like we're looking at buildings that have occupants in them with cash flow that are $100 a foot. So this is all just is like spells really great opportunity, right? And with opportunity, it's just going to be great for everybody that's involved. So I think people just need to be patient, I think
Yeah.
as we get through 24, I think things are going to start to look a lot better.
Nice. Nice.
And that
I
wasn't
know.
that wasn't a stream trend. That was a Charlie trend because I don't want someone saying that we don't agree with that. That's the world according to Charlie.
Gotcha. I know our time is tight. You got Friday afternoon. It's afternoon where you are. But I guess I just have a few maybe rapid fire questions for you, Charlie, before we wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, the obvious answer is baseball player, but the not so obvious answer in some of the people that know me much closer from my childhood, um, I thought at one point in time like I was going to be an artist, and I was deep into graffiti, and I'll just leave it
I've
at
seen
that.
some of that. Yeah.
You've seen some of that, that's right. And so, it's just so interesting how you can evolve over time, though. And I still love art, right? But more as a collector than anything now.
You're not tagging your own buildings right now.
Not yet. Maybe the first building I actually buy myself, I'll tag it.
uh, what's your least favorite thing about our industry?
One word, nepotism.
Mm.
We'll just leave it at that and we'll move on to the next question.
So what's your favorite thing?
The people and like the relationships that I have gained,
Yeah.
it has to be the people like this. I think our industry is unlike any other. At least when I have conversations with people, like we're so collegial in the fact that like people want to
Yeah.
share information, people always want to meet and talk, and that's just like where I thrive. And
Yeah.
so that's what I like the most about it.
Yeah. Don't you think it's one of the most important things in our industry? Relationships with.
It is so important. I think I said that, good people are paramount. Like a
Yeah.
close second is your network, right?
Yeah.
And Bob Knackel, he's a famous. I'm saying famous. He probably wouldn't call himself famous, but like he's done like over $20 billion worth of office sales in New
Mm.
York. He says, and I heard him. I'm gonna quote him on this because I love this quote. Uh, it's not who you know, it's who knows you,
Mm.
right? And that's where it becomes really important in understanding your network.
Yep. Yep. Last question before we wrap up, but is there some belief or unpopular opinion that you have that maybe challenges the status quo, or some belief that isn't super popular?
Well, it's funny. So I was like, I'm gonna Google like the top like unpopular opinions because like my initial reaction is like, look, like we all have a little bit of like conspiracy theorists in us, right? And like that's probably an unpopular opinion amongst people is like being that. But like, so I
Yeah.
Googled them and it's like there was three that I pulled that I really liked. One was money can buy happiness, and I would agree with that. The more money I had made, like I'm not saying I'm happier, but like there's other
Sure.
things come along with that. People who are nice just want something from you. Like no way. Like I am nice to people 90% of the time, and that's mostly because like I believe, and again going back to my dad, like he just taught me like you get more
Yeah.
bees with honey. You get just being nicer to people is going to have a better outcome at the end of the day, whether they like it or
Hmm.
not. And then the last one was political correctness is killing free speech, right? I think people in this day and age are too concerned about like telling people about like, am I a Republican or am I a Democrat? Because someone's going to have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
And like, so people have just kind of shut down on that in lieu of like, hey, let's have like a constructive like conversation about this. Like,
Yep.
guess what? We can both be wrong or we can both
Yeah.
be right. Like,
Yep.
let's go.
Exactly.
So
Yep. No.
that's it, man. Those are my three.
Cool. Well, dude, I really appreciate this. I know we're short on time, but we'll have to do a second round in person here soon. Next time I'm in DC or you're out in LA. So,
It sounds like a good excuse to get out there. And look,
yeah,
man, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your continued friendship after all these years. And, look, whether you know it or not, like I'm quietly watching you and rooting for you and love everything that, yourself and Wagon Hammer, are putting out there and, keep putting the content out there, man. I think that you're influencing a lot of people, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. And definitely go follow Charlie. He's got a lot of great content on LinkedIn. Do not, in 2024, if you're in construction, real estate, in our industry, do not sleep on LinkedIn. Like there's a lot of great people on there like Charlie, and go give Charlie a follow. So dude,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Cheers, brother. We'll see you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you all.
I'll see you.